Books Are Good Medicine, a podcast sponsored by the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community, featuring books and other Native American-focused teaching resources. I am your host, Allison Waka. We have a special bonus episode for you today. I recently caught up with some of my colleagues at the 2024 International Conference of the Association of Tribal Archives, Libraries, and Museums. I asked these library experts to share what books by Native authors or about Native topics they would recommend, plus what titles they are hoping to read soon. They also share some of their advice for educators who want to better represent Native culture and issues in the classroom. And listen to the end for a bonus interview with Olympic track and field gold medalist Billy Mills. He shared some of his favorite books as well as his new book, Wings of an Eagle. Enjoy.
Hello, I'm Cindy Hohl, Dakota of the Santee Sioux Nation and president of the American Library Association. My favorite stories for youth starts with Fry Bread, a Native American family story by Kevin Noble Maillard. It's a beautiful story of a family who spends time together baking and frying their favorite bread. My next favorite is We Are Water Protectors, which is a Caldecott Medal winner by Carol Lindstrom. This is a book that I feel should be required reading for every American because it helps remind us of our shared responsibility to protect the land and natural resources for generations to come. It's so important that we band together to make sure that everyone has access to clean water because every human life depends upon water. Another favorite of mine is An Indigenous People's History of the United States for Young People by Jean Mendoza and Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. This is a wonderful compilation and something that is so important for young people to be able to access and read so that they can get a better understanding of what it means to be Indigenous in America. Another favorite is Turtle Island, the story of North America's first people by Yellowhorn. A beautiful illustration. There are so many wonderful stories here, and I encourage you to go to your local library, sign up for a card, and make sure that you check out a book or two and put them on your to-be-read list. Pita mai wo pita tanka. Thank you very much.
So, hello, this is Vanessa or Chacha Centeno. I work for the Sacramento Public Library, and I'm a member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. My favorite book, I'm going to say series, is the Healer of the Water Monster series. It reminds me a lot of the struggles my dad has gone through and just being able to see the generational healing. And that story reminds me a lot of what we've done together. A book I want to read is Warrior Girl Unearthed. I will get to it eventually. I'm a big audiobook person, so it's probably going to be the audiobook because yay for oral stories. Another book that I would recommend, if I got it right, that people read, or one of my favorites to recommend, is actually Not Your Princess. When I first read that book, I had to go in my room, close the door, light some sage, and I cried through it. But there's a poem in there called Little Sister, and it's written by Tasha Spillett. And I read that often when I'm out in the community because it talks about creating a way for our youth, recognizing them. And if I had to tell an educator something about working with Native youth, I would say learn to speak as if we're in the room because we always are. And it's not a switch you can turn off and on. You're a guest on their lands and use their ways, respect them all the time. And if you don't know, reach out to local educators who will help you learn to know and see them.
Hi, my name is Janice Rice. My tribal affiliation is Ho-Chunk Nation. And my current position, I'm retired, but I'm also president of our Ho-Chunk Library Board, and it's called Waga Hakiru Hara Hara Hosto. And that means library in our Ho-Chunk language. I have a long list of what I would really like to read, but there's one that pops to the top because it covers Ho-Chunk people. And the title of the book is A History in Indigenous Voices, and then subtitle Menominee, Ho-Chunk, Oneida, Stockbridge, and Brotherton Interactions in the Removal Era. And the author is Carol Cornelius, and I met her when she was a college student. So I'm looking forward to reading that one, especially because it's from the indigenous voice during the treaty-making era when they were going to negotiate how things were going to be handled in Wisconsin regarding the treaty negotiations. These were the tribal leaders talking to each other at that time. So she's written a book that covers that era. So it's not from the non-native voice about us. It's from our voices of history coming forward to present day for us to learn about and to feel the strength from our ancestors. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Bonjour, my name is Cassy Leeport. I am the director of the Tribal Libraries, Archives, and Museums program at UW-Madison's iSchool, or more affectionately called TLAM. I am a direct descendant of the Grand Portage Band of Ojibwe in northern Minnesota. And my favorite K-12 resource that I would recommend right now is Wisdom Weavers by James Vukolich. It is an absolutely phenomenal book about just day-to-day life of an Ojibwe father and son. And the way it integrates language is just phenomenal. And there's QR codes where you can actually hear the language. So 10 out of 10. My advice to educators when you're looking for resources is really look at who wrote the book and what is their connection to the community. Not only does the community need to claim them, but they need to claim the community, and the community needs to claim them back. So looking at those connections and the point of them telling that story and what is their connection to it is really helpful in having those culturally authentic resources. Miigwech.
Yeah, it's just Sylvanus Paul. Yeah, my name's Sylvanus Paul. I'm Diné from the Four Corners area. I'm a Navajo chapter. I work in Smithsonian, NMAI, the New Museum of the American Indian. I work in collections. And one book for children's that really had an effect on me when was first read to us when I was in elementary school. It was Monster Slayer, a Navajo folktale from V. Brown. That one, I remember hearing versions of it, and then they read it to us as kids, and just seeing the pictures of it, and then the seeing the little twins or little kids. You see them as little kids, so you see yourself while they're telling the story. And then and this is Pine Hill, New Mexico, by the way. So Pine Hill Elementary School. The author actually came down and visited our classroom and read the stories to us herself. Except she would, in between certain pages, she would stop and she would talk about kind of behind the scenes a bit about it. And one thing that sticks with me today was when her book got popular and she was offered, hey, you want to do it as a film rights, or you want to sell the rights to this story? And she said no, because she told us it was a lot of money and people wanted to retell it. But she made a point that she said, this is my family stories. And then she looked to us and she said, these are your stories. You can't sell your stories. These are yours, not to anyone else. And that just stuck with me over time. So even in my adult age, especially in college, I would be kind of careful when I tell personal family stories and even stories from our community. And it was all because of that warning that I got from her. And so I always hold that one book that I do cherish because of it had a lasting effect on me. And it's one of the things that I still think about today.
Hello, Saguli, Sagwegu. Hello, everyone. My name is Tanani Nunes. Duan Diné Yunget. My Unkuhiwe Neha name is Shilin for Daylight. I am Oneoteaga. We will go to Honjoda. Oneida is the part of Earth that I come from, and I'm Otayuni. I'm Wolf Clan. I love reading. I found a newfound love for reading in this season of my life. I've been a student forever. I'll always be a student. I think I'll always be learning. So to read for pleasure is different. It's difficult when I'm reading different case studies or different lectures and notes. So I decided last year that I would dedicate some self-care, and I chose a book to read. And I never picked it up. I would pick it up, but I wouldn't open it. And I still have to come back to that book. So I'll save that title for later. But I had a lot of shifts in my life, and I got gifted a set of books, and I didn't realize how powerful that gift would be. And in part of my changes and transitions is a whole new line of work and career. So I was gifted Firekeeper Statter and Warrior Girl on Earth, and that completely changed my life. It was so beautiful. It aligns with my career path with returning ancestors. They're my heroes in that book. So I love the whole storyline. I'm not a spoiler girly. I like to save all the details for the reader, but I can give some examples of like what really the key components that really stuck out for me was one, she written it in a way that was so unapologetically Ojibwe from an Ojibwe perspective, and that's highly revered. And I love that it was geared to whatever audience was just going to have to learn. they were, if they had questions, they'd have to figure it out. And there was a lot of context that gave understanding, but I really enjoyed that aspect. It felt relatable. The experiences of all the main characters felt very relatable, beautiful, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of raw realities conveyed in a beautiful way. So I really enjoyed those. Another component was really interesting was that in the first book, the main character is mixed lineage. So I feel like that's very common for our people today. How do they hone in on their indigenous side while staying true to those customs and like what do those footsteps look like for them? And I think so many of our young people are in those positions today. So I felt like it was really relatable and a beautiful book. Books, which was Firekeeper Statter and Warrior Girl on Earth. My other favorite book is Berry Song. And it's so beautifully written, and the illustrations. It's a children's book by Michaela Gold. And she really talks about our teachings in such a calming manner. And it's something that I read to my children. And it was a gift too. It was a gift from our local library, our tribal library. So that was a great event. I think in most Native communities, their relationship to fruit and the berries around them is such a high potent of medicine that they get their own thanks and acknowledgements to. And in that book reading, they gave away strawberry drink. So shout out to our libraries. They're so amazing. I'm not sure what I'm going to read this coming winter, but I did start a new audiobook, which I love the Libby app. I use it a lot on car rides or getting ready or when I'm reading or crafting, because you can knock out those books and you can enjoy it. And it's kind of like personal time. My kids, they don't enjoy it as much because they're like, who's reading to us? They want more animation, I think. And so my current book that I am is the only Good Indians. And so I'm wondering how that's going to unfold. I just started it. I may listen to it on our way back. So I like having access to an audiobook and like a hardcover. It makes reading such a different experience. I love storytelling, and like everything has been carried down through oral tradition. So just looking at it in a new way. Go for your time. Thank you.
My name is Billy Mills. My Lakota name is Ta Makosha Tekahila, which means loves your community, loves your land, or loves the earth, or respects the earth.
That's a very well suited name for you. So we just have one question. If you could, or maybe two, if you could just tell us maybe some of your favorite books over time that you've liked over the years.
Oh gosh, over the years, one of the books I'll tell that I read maybe 5 years ago, The Real All-Americans, about Carlisle, about Jim Thorpe.
Yeah.
And I believe that book was on 16 books that are to be banned from school libraries because it just indicates the racism.
Right.
And to me, it's one of the most powerful books I read, half white and half indigenous. So it represented my total being inspiration. I've tried to read fiction, nonfiction. And when I go to nonfiction, I try to reach areas of society that people don't understand. And Then I'll just read a book like my wife says he's our son we never had, and I call him a dear friend, Nicholas Sparks.
Oh.
And, Nick was friends with our daughters.
Oh, okay.
So he would always come to the house and visit as a young boy. The books I've read about the indigenous people have given me that inspiration of wanting to some way touch the minds of the seventh generation that from my tribe is being born today.
Mm-hmm.
The seventh generation for those tribes that follow it. They have a different period of time. But when my tribe signed a treaty with the federal government, they ultimately said it would take 6 years, and at the seventh generation, the seventh would be those that could take the culture, tradition, spirituality into the classroom with them and choreograph with the students in the chair next to them America's future. So in my own little reading, I'd read about the past, and I try to learn from oral history. And I found out my great-grandfather, B.B. Mills, Englishman, took the first cattle drive with others into Montana, Wyoming, when the buffalo was being systematically killed off to starve the Indian people. Prior to that, in that part of the country, he met this Lakota woman. They married my great-grandmother. They had 5 children. Red Cloud, Chief Red Cloud, the 1868 treaty. When he surrendered, he asked the United States government if B.B. Mills could become the first Indian agent at what would become the Red Cloud Agency. The U.S. government said no. He speaks fluent Lakota, married a Lakota woman, father of 5 Lakota children, the youngest, which is but 3 months old. That was my grandfather. So 3 or 4 months after that, he died. We don't know how he died. He worked at Fort Laramie. They married, they lived outside of the fort. When he died, she ran away from the fort. She found her way with the 5 children to Crazy Horse's band. He took them in. So my oral history, grandfather, who was with Crazy Horse's band during the Battle of Little Bighorn. And I fantasize, did Crazy Horse ever ride by him? Was he close enough to hear some of his words of wisdom? Did he ever acknowledge my grandpa? Get out of the way, Tom Kosher. So that just brings joy to me when he didn't surrender, when he came in to accept eternal peace with the blessings of the Great Spirit, the Creator. He could live eternal peace. And as a peaceful man, he wanted to go to live wherever he wanted to live. And through oral history, and I don't know but I read it also. He told the soldiers, the leaders, maybe a lieutenant, maybe a captain. He said, when I look in your eyes, I see your universe. When you are at the center of your universe, and I'm at the center of my universe, we can be one. And I thought that was so poetic. When he surrenders, walking in, he's my great-grandmother. Her 5 children, the youngest, 5.5 years old, my grandpa. So I read where Sitting Bull said, we'll take the best of both worlds and build a new world for our children. But the U.S. government had other alternatives. Sitting Bull believed in the future, but those roads became misleading. Treaties signed, treaties broken. Genocide, which Pope Francis verified a year ago, past July. Boarding school trauma, which ultimately created generational trauma. 1823, the United States Supreme Court, may be wrong with the date, but the United States Supreme Court adopted the doctrine of discovery as truth to win a lawsuit. Indian people cannot own land. The doctrine of discovery basically says, written in 1493, any of the lands found can only belong to the first Christian monarch that discovers those lands. The indigenous people cannot own land. They must come under international rule of law. Their laws, their religion, their songs, the sacredness of the dance, the drum will no longer apply, and they must submit to Christianity. Within a generation, if our ancestors became Christians, they can own land. That's when we had no souls. California indigenous women fought first to have souls when Pope Francis made Father Sierra, who brutalized, murdered children, violated Indian women, bringing children into the world non-consensual. He was made a saint. The indigenous women just talked about the brutality and said at least denounce the doctrine of discovery. He did a year ago this past July. So that is etched into every fiber of our social way of life, our educational system, our political system, our entrepreneurial system. In this manner, treaty signed, treaties broken, slavery, genocide, Jim Crow, the war on drugs, countering the Civil Rights Act to make hippies and young black men felons. They dropped hippies, included our young indigenous men. Meth was dispersed, gotten to the reservations. It's been devastating to our people. So the seventh generation, to be able to take our culture, traditions, spirituality into the future is no guarantee. We have to empower those young people in some way so they can have a dream. They're willing to vocalize the dream. They're willing to pursue it, and they're willing to become part of the United States of America. Our American youth, their voice needs to be heard. Our tribal leaders' voice has to be heard. The indigenous tribes, the voice has to be heard as one, because we're stronger as one. So as I thought, how can I participate in that?
Yeah.
My wife and I wrote a book, Wings of an Eagle, Billy Mills' gold medal dream. My dad would tell me, you do these things, son, someday you can have wings of an eagle. Takes a dream to heal broken souls. My mom died, my soul broke. My dad had me believing I could create magic, find my dream, develop the skills, bring them together. I got off of a chair and I wrote down a dream to heal a broken soul. I wrote down Olympic gold medal, 10,000 meter run. The Creator has given me the ability. The rest is up to me. Believe, believe, believe. Coming off the final curve in Tokyo, Japan, I'm running out of energy. I'm going low blood sugar. And then I thought of my dad's words. You do these things, son, someday you could have wings of an eagle. Wings of an eagle. I can win, I can win. The tape broke across my chest. I asked the official, do I have a medal I have to go? He said, finished. New Olympic champion. Then he said, is there anything we can do for you? I said, I want my wife. She's 80 meters up the track, 85, 14 rows up, 3 states in toward the finish line. Within moments, they're tapping her on the shoulder. Mrs. Patricia Mills, the new Olympic champion, wants his wife. They brought her to me. We hug, I'm fine, I know what it meant. What meant? 85 meters from the finish. I'm going to win, but it may not get to the finish line first. But I'm going to try to get there first. I may never be this close again. I've got to do it now. Wings of an eagle. I said, my dad, you do these things. Someday you can have wings of an eagle. I can heal through the pursuit of a dream. I've healed a broken soul. And in the process, I didn't expect 60 years later, I'm the only person from America, from the Western Hemisphere, to win that race. But there's a far more important race today, a race for our sovereignty, a race for us as indigenous people. So I just wonder, young indigenous children in the classroom today, some of them are our seventh generation, to feel strongly about a dream. They can have a dream. That dream can be supported. And to understand the diversity of the student in either chair, right or left of them, or her, because we're stronger as one. And to implement that, I had to do several things. One, I delayed writing the book. Then Donna Janelle Bowman, just an incredible woman, contacted us in 2015. I've studied your tribe. I've studied you, Billy. We talked. She knew almost as much about me as I know about me. And non-Indian. The difficulty I was having writing a book, I'm half white, I'm half Lakota. I've never met a white relative, and I wanted to write a book having the perspective of a white relative like my great-grandpa, because I don't have that perspective. White's perspective is the treatment they gave us. So I delayed writing. As we met with Donna Janelle Bowman, she made a comment through oral history. As she studied oral history, she realized that's not what she studied in written history. There was this conflict, and she had to seek truth. So she listened to oral history, and it made her stronger. She realized when oral history meets written history, truth is revealed. So she started working on the book. I would do the editing. We worked together, and as I would read a word I would have used, I'd read the word. A word how she used the word. that I could feel the heartbeat of the word. So I told Pat, Donna has to write the book with us. She was willing to give me all of her research, and I could write the book. She would not write a book if I didn't participate. One of the most sacred things I've done is to work with her to write the book. Then we had something else in common. She secretly wanted S.D. Nelson, who's Lakota, an incredible illustrator, kind of known for his ledger art. And then I wanted S.D. Nelson. He was kind of one of my heroes. But the publishing company chooses.
Oh.
So they reviewed a multitude of artists, of editors. They chose, I have a best friend called S.D., called Martin. So all three of us wanted S.D. Nelson. And then when they started contacting him, he made a simple, innocent comment that brought me to tears. He said, wow, Billy Mills, I have his poster on my wall. And it was just like a sacred coming of the illustrator, the co-writers, and wanting to empower every youth in the classroom that all of their dreams can come true and the strength lies in their diversity. So we wrote the book, Wings of an Eagle. And without Donna Bowman, without my wife, without S.D. Martin, it would not have happened.
It all came together. It's beautiful.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Books Are Good Medicine. Subscribe to our channel on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also visit our website, booksaregoodmedicine.com, to find episodes and resources or to send us a comment. This podcast is sponsored by the Shakopee, Mdewakanton Sioux community and produced by Goff Public. Our theme music is Stomp Dance by Blue Dog. The opinions expressed on the Books Are Good Medicine podcast by its co-hosts and guests are their own in their personal capacities and do not necessarily reflect the views of any organization with whom they are affiliated or of the podcast sponsor.